Namaskar. Good afternoon, friends. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the seminar Enhancement of Mental and Physical Wellbeing through the Performing Arts, being organized by Center for Cultural Studies and Development with the support of the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Since its inception in the year 2010, CCSD has been organizing from time to time seminars and symposiums on specific socio-cultural issues that are relevant to the present context of global culture. The topic of today's seminar is also important. Performing art, be it dance, music, drama, and even the visual art, it is a mode of creative expression, the self-expression. So during the past 2.5 and 3 years, we have seen how the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the way of life, resulting in the changes in routine, lifestyle, and the ways we interact with others. So, and during this period only, we have also seen that performing art has emerged as a healer, a creative medium to spread the positive messages to people. And it has also guided us how to cope up with the virus and deal with this unprecedented situation. Indian performing art, different streams of Indian performing art, since time immemorial, has been transmitted from master to the disciple through Guru Shishya Parampara. And gradually it made its place as the discipline in academic level in different reputed universities. Moreover, many forms of performing art are being used as therapy to deal with the major health problems. So the objective of the seminar is to bring awareness about the importance of performing art in life and to emphasize on the fact that art enhances the self-confidence, resilience, and has the potential to deliver the major health benefits. So we have amongst us today 3 esteemed panels of speakers who are experts in their fields, and they will share their experiences and highlight the key issues related to the topic of today's seminar. I warmly welcome Dr. Minoti Panda, Professor of Psychology, Zakir Hussain Center for Educational Studies, School of Social Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Ms. Ruma Chakraborty, Indian music therapist, leadership executive coach, author, and founder of Factorize. Ms. Anshuma Shethrupal, she is a drama and movement psychotherapist and vice president of Indian Association of Dance Movement Therapy, founder of the Color of Grace Hills, and co-founder of the Arts Therapist Collab. But unfortunately, Professor Rahul Dev Mondal, Bharatnatyam exponent, he could not attend the seminar today as his mother is critically ill, in coma, hospitalized, and therefore he had to cancel his tour at the last moment. But he has sent his apologies for not attending the seminar today, but you can find his paper printed in the brochure. So on behalf of CCSD, I extend my warm welcome to our panelists and hope that your lecture will enlighten us to understand the subject matter of this seminar today in more systematic and scientific manner. So we begin the seminar session with Ms. Ruma Chakraborty. The title of her paper is Indian Music Therapy for the Wellbeing of Mind and Body.
Namaste. I thank Paulami Guhaji and Center for Cultural Studies and Development for giving me an opportunity to speak on a very pertinent subject, that is enhancement of mental and physical well-being through the performing arts. It's all the more relevant as Paulami Guhaji just, narrated that we are still, settling down from this very unsettling experience of COVID-19. So performing arts has given us a window to express, right? And heal, of course, from that experience. So today, my topic is Indian music therapy for the well-being of mind and body. So performing arts, as we all know, is a very well-revered mode for artistic expressions, predominantly through music, dance, drama, and it allows to delve deep into our physical as well as emotional or mental self, and to explore and then emote and heal from inside. And through the bhavas of the performer, which aims at evoking or inducing the rasa among the spectators, audiences, or the viewers, right? So, or the listeners, of course, if we consider only music in that case. So when deep into that art form, whichever art form it is music, it is drama or dance, both the performer as well as the listener or the spectator feels that healing effect. So why not use that effect for the larger benefit of people who are suffering or who are not suffering, right? So today performing arts is gaining popularity as evidence-based therapeutic modality, and this paper actually explores or discusses how Indian music, so when I say Indian music, I'm considering only Geet and Vadya, not Nritya, okay? So how these modes of Indian music, that is Bharatiya Sangeet, can help deal with mental and physical upliftment, okay, for people who are having diseases and also for people who are not having any pronounced diseases, all right? So with a very rich history of our Indian tradition of music, dance, drama, each and every Indian subcontinent or each and every state of Indian subcontinent has its own, mode of music or expression or expressive modalities, all right, whether it is through the music, through the drama, or through dance, right? And these modalities or these performing arts actually allow us to explore from inside, then express and heal from within. And this exactly is the basis of Indian music therapy practices as well. All right. And when I talk about Indian music therapy practices, it's a kind of ocean, you can say. The practice in northern region is very different from the practice in the southern or the other regions. And amongst those also, we can follow different practice approaches, because we know that Indian music is very complex. So if we are actually dealing with Indian music therapy, we need to have the knowledge of Indian music, all right? Whether you are singing or dancing, that is not important, but the knowledge about Indian music is very, very important to be an Indian music therapist when you are dealing with Indian music therapy per se. So in this space, as I'm talking about it, so these expressions, this performing arts are the basis of Indian music therapy practices and approaches as well, where we actually move from the performance-centric model and use music for healing, therapy, etc. All right. So what is music therapy? So music therapy, as you all know, is a way in which music is applied in a therapeutic framework for improving different, conditions. All right. We cannot say for curing, though curing is also a part of it. But logically, if any medical practitioner is there, that curing term will not be suitable here. So we say that improving different disorders and diseases or conditions. So music is applied for improving those. All right. So, but we have to understand that we have to have the music or apply the music in a specific therapeutic framework. All right. And this is by far one of the best alternative, natural and non-invasive therapeutic modality for both preventive as well as for rehabilitative healing. All right. And thus music therapy is not about music alone. It is a set of activities towards the therapy and healing goal, right? So when I talk about therapeutic framework, what does it mean? We start with, basic like evaluation, basic assessment. Then, it goes up to final evaluation. Okay, so basic, finding out basic evaluation, what is the need and what is the requirement? Is there any requirement of music therapy? Can music really help in this particular aspect? And then go into planning music therapy, designing, then administering music therapy, and then final assessment. If need be, change the modalities, change the intervention process again. So it is a circle until the final or desired result is obtained, or desired outcome is obtained. So it's a set of activities, very systematically, structurally, and scientifically designed. Okay, so as I told, music therapy is not about music alone. You have to really understand what is the need, all right, and go according to the activities that you are planning. And the participation of the client can be either active or passive. So if a person is in coma, so that person cannot actively participate in the session, music therapy session, it will be always passive. Otherwise, we have to, being a music therapist, understand what is the need and how, whether active, whether passive, or both can be combined together to give a proper, administration, targeted and relevant administration, music therapy administration. Now, although music or music therapy is considered to be an adjunct therapy to the medical intervention these days, as per Western nomenclatures, but if we consider Indian music or Indian music therapy, 99% of Indian music therapy practitioners are working independent of medical interventions. Okay, and they are actually witnessing humongous success. All right, so we can clearly say that Indian music can very well work even without the help of medical science. Okay, but we need to understand the root cause. Many are there, many successful stories are there. People are really working very, very hard in these cases. Only thing is, we need support from medical fraternity, from government and all, so that this profession can be recognized, which is not at this moment, right? So this is very important. Now, from Indian context, we all know that music has always been used as a healing modality right from our ancient time, by our ancestors, by our gurus, by our sages. Okay, and it was never separate from the Indic studies. It was part and parcel of all other practices like yoga, Nada yoga, and any other elite practices. All other practices were together. So music was never separate. It was part of all those. Even if we look at one verse, I do not remember the Sanskrit verse, but I can tell you the summary of it. Swami Swatamarma from Hatha Yoga Pradipika, when he narrated Hatha Yoga Pradipika, he said, if you have to attain the highest form of yoga, Nada is the only way forward among the crores of ways. All right, if you can attain Nada, then you are at the highest stage of yoga, right? So that's how, and we know that Indian music has come from, or has originated, emanated from inside, from different body parts. Saptaswaras emanated from our different body parts, from different body parts. So this is being narrated by all our musicologists, ancient musicologists and the scholars. And the audible music that we hear, or we can, or the music that we make outside, it is the manifestation of the internal sound that we hear. And that is the reason why some sounds attract to us and some sounds really do not, right? And that is the beauty of Indian music. And the concept of Nada is very Indian. Music therapy is not only for people having diseases or disorders, it is also for people who are not having pronounced diseases. So I always ask a question, are we all normal? We have certain kind of issues, right? Always we say that we are stressed out, we are burnt out, we have anxiety, and also actually we are also not normal in these situations. But if we do not take care of these small things, or big things. Actually, if we talk about stress, it's a very big, fat, bad guy, which gives rise to all different kind of lifestyle diseases and even neurological diseases and all. This is scientifically proven, all right. So if we don't take care of this can be established diseases later on in our life. So we also need music therapy. That is what I wanted to say, actually. All right. Okay, so next comes to the topic, like music therapy for mind and body wellness. So mind and body are never separate. They are part of the same constitution, all right. If mind is good, so is the body. If body is good, so is the mind, right? So they never can separately, weighed or never can separately healed or given therapy to or therapeutic intervention to. So now music therapy is used for addressing diverse mental issues within the umbrella of, you can say, psychological, cognitive, then emotional, behavioral, social, well-being. All right. And examples of mental health issues are like depression, trauma, other psychological issues. Functional issues also give rise to psychological issues. So, bodily problems also give rise to our mental health issues, and mental health issues also give rise to body problems. We know that. So that's why they are not separate. So now social withdrawal, then comes cognitive memory issues. There are a lot of other behavioral problems we see. So these are some of the examples of mental issues. These in turn reflect on our physical body, all right, giving different kind of disorders. Now for physical health, music therapy has been used very, very effectively, all right, and is being used very effectively throughout the world. And where do we use this? Mostly optimizing in autonomic functions. We know that heart rate variability, body temperature, respiration, and all those stuff. Pain management, whether it is in case of pregnancy pain, cancer pain, and other pain. Music is very, very effective because the perception is changed. The pain is a perception, right? That perception is changed through music. So that's how it works. Motor skills. Motor skill issues are very, very well handled with music therapy. All right, whether it is gross motor skills, whether it is fine motor skills or oral motor skills. So when we talk about gross motor skills, what are those? These are dealing with large muscles of the body, like legs, limbs, all this stuff. And now when we talk about fine motor skills, which are those? These are like small tissues or muscles of the body, like holding a pen, holding a cup. So these are actually categorized under fine motor skills. Oral motor skills, problem with the speech, problem with facial muscles, all right. So all these things are categorized into oral motor skills, right? Now, conditions can be different. Like, for example, if we talk about speech problem, a speech problem can come through a stroke, cerebral attack. It can also come through autism spectrum disorder. It can also come from other problems, trauma. All right. So conditions may be different, and but the issue, the challenge may be similar. But we have to design music therapy based on the root cause. Maybe I always give this example. Say 5 people are having headache, and we are giving crocin to 5 people, right? And 99% of the time, they will have the effect that the headache is subsided. But if we design the same music therapy and give to 5 people having headache, it may or may not be it may not yield the same effect. All right. So you have to see what is the cultural background, right? What is the root cause of the problem? What is the issue? Is it the chronic or it is not? So all these things need to be taken care of and design music therapy, right? So it is music therapy may sound very easy on face, but it is not so, right? Technicalities are lots in this. So now, as I said, conditions may be different. Children having special needs, you know that, in a lot of homes where children require the special needs, music therapy is one of the very frequently used modality for their improvements, okay? Dementia, Parkinson's disease, stroke, functional abnormalities arising from stroke, then heart ailments, pregnancy problems, obsessive compulsive disorders, depression. So all these things can be, and lifestyle changes, as I just spoke about, stress, burnout, etc. Now, there are ample music therapy researches done and are being done for, in these particular areas that I have just spoken about. And these are not the comprehensive list, okay? These are just examples that I am giving you, okay? So, and the efficacy of music therapy is already established in many cases and many conditions, and for the improvement of many conditions, all right? Both physical and mental. Yeah. These are examples of motor skill issues. Like this first one can be considered for both gross as well as fine motor skills. This is for fine motor skills, and this is speech issue, and this is assisted music therapy. People who cannot really move, what they need, how you do it. And these are some other music therapy sessions that we do. And this is part of the experiment that I had been doing now in a destitute home in Patiala, Punjab. So there are 400 depression people. So I'm working with them and doing the experiment with the psychiatry department. Now, mental and physical health and music therapy has a very deep-rooted connection. Right. For example, Charaka Samhita mentions singing, playing, etc. were part of maternity home setup, then hospital setup, all right. As well as music was used for alcoholism, then metabolic disorders. Even in coma, music has been used for, giving a better emotion and a proper emotion to patients and all, or if enhancing the emotion of the patients. If we go to another learned system, say for example Greek tradition, so they also have very rich musical tradition and music therapy tradition per se. So if we talk about Pythagoras, he also said that music can be used for emotional cleansing as well as body cleansing, he said, right? Another example, as I have mentioned, Plato's student Xenocrate, he used lyre, instrumental music of lyre, for healing one patient of hysteria. All right. So these are for mental disorders. But if we look at the physical issues, how music therapy can help in physical issues. So Indian practices, whether it is chanting mantras or saman singing, samagana singing, or playing musical instrument, or present music rendering, each and every modality or every technique has got movements involved. If we look at our mantra chanting, we know that they have got different movements, and this is directly connected to heart functioning. This is direct connection to brain function. This is scientifically proven. Now, if we go to samagana singing, we know that the music has originated from samagana. So from our existing text and scriptures, all right. So samagana, that 7 swaras has come from there. Now, singing 7 swaras had got different ways of singing 7 swaras at that point in time. As per Naradiya Shiksha, he mentioned that, swaras had different connections to different fingers parts. All right. When they used to sing sa, there would be this point, re, this would be this point. So different points were there. Otherwise also, for different body parts were touched when they used to sing swaras. So it's all about energy, vibration, frequency. Yeah. And the resonance that is being created inside. So movement was always right from beginning the part. So it is the very first reference of anatomical association between human body and music, the Naradiya Shiksha part. And later on we see many others. All right. So, and also bol tal, when we play tabla or mridangam, percussion music. So bol tal is very much part of this percussion music. When you are playing tabla, so it is actually involving the muscles. And also there are a lot of other things. I'll come to it in a little while. And when we say bols, these are also giving our oral motor movements, right? And this is so much therapeutic. Yeah. So I'll come to an example a little later in application here itself. So Indian music therapy uses different elements and techniques, right? Elements, if we look at it, starting from swaras. Swaras are the building blocks of Indian music. Swaras, alap, vistar, sargams, alankars, alankaran, all right, tan, sargams. Then lyrical music, all right, instrumental music. So all these are part of music therapy as well. Like, there are elements, there are techniques. So when we say swaras, these are elements. When we say vistara, these are techniques that we are applying with swaras, making that okay. The application of multimodal approach is also very, very important, because one thing is, many people do not have the background of classical music. I mean to say, the people who come for treatment, all right, they may not like it. How do you make it interesting for them so that they like it also, and you know that you are actually doing it scientifically? So you need to go or innovate it and make a multimodal therapeutic approach. So keeping Indian music at the center, you use story, you use yogasana, you use art, craft, silence, mantras, and then give a whole soul multimodal therapeutic effect. And as I initially told, that Indian music was never separate topic from our ancient times. So these very much fit into the whole structure. But only thing we need to take care here when we are dealing with Indian music therapy, that music has to be in the center. So I'll just like to give you one example. A boy having speech disorder, 4 years old, and is also extremely restless. So when I started music therapy with him, he just could utter syllables. Ra, la, his name is Shan, so he could not utter Shan. Sha, then Na. You have to tell him, Shan say Sha, he'll say Sha, then Na, he'll say Na. So that way he would combine words. So only syllables could be uttered. And he's extremely restless. He will just go around and hang from anywhere he could. He was very thin and very energetic. And so if I want to give a multimodal approach, multimodal therapy to him, keeping music therapy in mind, how do I do it? So for example, I want to tell him a story, all right, through music. So I have to either tell him or select a song that he knows or he's familiar with, or I have to create a song that he's attracted to. And what will I do with that? I'll put his name into it, incorporate his name into it, because we are all very much attached to our names. The moment someone calls, how many people are there with the same name? All will turn, right? So this is very inherent, ability to attract a person, right, with the name. Secondly, we'll have to see the problems that he's having and the responses that we are desiring from him, all right? So how? Just 2 lines I'll do. I had chosen a song called Lakdi Ki Kathi in one of the interventions, because I, from the initial evaluation, I knew that this song is being played at their household and he knows it. He sometimes responds also with la 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 and all. So I said, okay, let me take a chance. So, लकड़ी की काठी काठी पे घोड़ा घोड़े की दुम पे जो मारा हथौड़ा दौड़ा 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 घोड़ा दुम उठा के दौड़ा. फिर शान, घोड़ा कहाँ पहुँचा? नहीं पता आपको? अच्छा, हाँ, चौक में पहुँचा. अच्छा, तो आप भी गए थे वहाँ? अच्छा ठीक है, आप गा के बताए. घोड़ा पहुँचा चौक में था नाई, घोड़े जी की नाई ने हजामत जो बनाई. And it goes on that way. What is happening in this particular 2 lines? We need to understand it. First of all, we are taking his name, Shan. Then when I am doing that Mara Hathoda, what I am doing, I am holding his hand and doing this Mara Hathoda. So I am anchoring him to that particular lyrics, so that his attention is in the song and he realizes that there is a song, and whenever the song plays next, he knows that, okay, Mara Hathoda means it has to be done like that, all right? Then Dauda, 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 same, anchoring we are doing. So in this, his cognition, his physical well-being, his mental well-being, everything is working, because a mental map is created. The next time when he listens to the song, the experience will be different than how he was listening earlier. And what is my expectation from this? When I do it repeatedly with him, the same expression, same activity, same intervention with Mara Hathoda, Dauda, 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 same, this repeated intervention actually registers in his mind, and later on he responds. All right? So same happened with Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. His parents actually play this, and the moment this is played, whether it is crying, whether he is running around, he will stop. He will pause. And you won't believe this was the first statement he sang. Within just 3-4 months, the 18th session he spoke, and with music, that Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. And that was a experience we had with him. So, but only thing is that you have to repeat, keep on repeating thing. All right. Secondly, so this is one of the examples of intervention, okay, where mental and physical well-being both can be taken care of with music therapy. Secondly, say dhatunna natunna, the simplest of tal bol we can incorporate in our music therapy. So dhatunna natunna. So when you are saying dhatunna natunna, you see that your tongue is moving up and down. It is touching the palate and then coming. So it is a very good exercise for oral movement. Okay, oral motor skills. All right. So these way, smaller things. So I always say that to design very simple music therapies, we need to understand the complexity of the subject, and then we can actually create the simple music therapy. So this is one example I have taken, and these are few applications that we can do with music therapy. I'm not going through all of those, it will take a lot of time. And another example I want to take is exercising with music, right? Or yogasana with music. The rheumatoid arthritis lady that I have shown just a few moments earlier. So actually she used to do yogasana with music through our guidance, my and my husband's guidance, and thereafter she was able to walk properly. So now what is the benefit of exercising with music? It improves gait, it improves balance, it improves coordination. Lot of things are being improved, but here the list that I have given, if you look at it, the music therapy interventions and the applications, major applications, we cannot always say that mantras or say swara, single swara rendition can only bring focus. No, it can even allow the social bonding, improve social bonding if you're doing in a group. So these are just you can say some of the applications, major applications of one particular intervention. Most importantly, the intent. If you do not have the right intent while applying music therapy or administering music therapy will never work. And this intent is a combination of a lot of things. Your positive energy, the bhava, the most important, the bhava, the positive energy, the love and compassion. If you do not have this in you, and you are totally 100% focused in transferring that energy from you to the other person who is sitting across, only then music therapy is going to work. Intention does have the work. All right, your expression, your gesture just does have the work. Because the person who is sitting across, that person is just looking at your face first, not connecting to music. Right? So this is the very, very important aspect of music therapy. So now, how or why music therapy works for harmonizing our body? As I told you, energy from the audible music, it is a pure physics, all right? Energy from audible music actually balances the internal nada within us. It's an energy alignment, realignment, and that's how music works. And then the resonance is created within us. If you look at recent researches, I'm forgetting his name, mitochondrial research. Dorwallis. Dorwallis, his experiment with mitochondrial energy for the past 50 or so years. He said that energy is the basic thing, and energy imbalance is the basics for all problems or all the diseases. So this is what our ancestors had told long before, okay? So music is also that energy. So that energy transfer should be done properly. So that is the important point for the resonance to be created and functions to be regained within the body. Secondly, music is the only art form so far that is found to be working on the whole brain simultaneously, right? this is what science says. Maybe tomorrow some other things, other facts can come up, but so far it's the only art form that works in the whole brain simultaneously. So we can really see that the whole brain exercising can be done with music, right? So this is another reason. And all of us connect with music very easily, except for few people who do not like music, but we connect with music very easily. But I will not say 100%. Some people actually do not connect with music also. We have also seen that. We have experienced that. Some people came up after sessions and said, I didn't understand what you have done. So you have to deal with those situations as well. All right. But this is good feedback. You need to understand where his or her interest lies and where musically that person connects, if you have to work with them. So it's a good challenge. All right. Listening to one's favorite music. Scientifically, the University of North Carolina has found that when you sing or listen to your favorite music, a part of our brain called a default mode network opens up. It gets activated and it allows you to look inward and be mindful at the same time. It's totally neurologically positive sign and also connects you to the happy memories, right? So this is a very pertinent research that is being done, and I have applied this with in the senior citizens home across the country. All right, I have applied it with students who do not really align with Indian music. Okay, lot of people, and always we have got positive feedback. Also with corporates, they are very positive, of course, with this particular this thing. So, and also experimentally, we have found a lot of good results with this. To conclude, the application of Indian music for holistic health development has been a practice from our olden days. All our ancient scholars, musicologists have done enormous research in this aspect and given. Now, in the present day, it has become all the more relevant. And most importantly, we need to bring back those practices again. And most importantly, we need to document those applications. Unless and until we document those applications or the outcome of the experiment or experiences, then the tradition will not continue. Either we continue the tradition by doing enormous research that they have done relevant to present day scenario. All right, because why I say relevant to present day scenario, because the food we are eating, the air we are breathing, the water we are drinking, everything has changed. So we'll have to do relevant research with the same music for the present day requirement. Yeah, so and document those. Secondly, it is very, very important that government and medical fraternity gives opportunity to the music therapists, independent music therapists, to do authentic research work. What is happening nowadays is medical fraternity is doing their own research just without much knowledge of Indian music. And the people who are actually into, who have the wisdom and knowledge of Indian music, they are not getting that opportunity. So that way, the genre is not actually advancing. Research is not music therapy. Research is one part, practicing is other part. They are totally different aspects. All right, absolutely different. In institutes, music therapy course should be encouraged by universities, Indian universities. So only one university in India gives courses on music therapy, and that is also recognized by an Austrian university. So this is not Indian music therapy. Indian music therapy has to be totally based on Indian music wisdom, and courses also has to be on the Indian music wisdom. Then only we can call it Indian music therapy.
Actually experts in the area. I'm not an expert in this area. I'm a psychologist, and I work on I'm a cultural psychologist, and I work on cognition and how we think, okay. So I'll just give you a brief background. This is one study we had done nearly 8 years back, and another young scholar was involved with me, and we were doing an ethnography of a village which was a heritage village in Odisha, and the entire village practices 7 different kinds of art forms. And what we were interested in studying at that time is that how anybody in that village learns different art forms. How do they perform, and what does it do to them? But we were particularly interested in looking into the lived world of women artists and how they evolve as artists and how their own life changes. So what I'm going to speak today is not my primary question that I asked that time. But since Polemy requested me to speak, I thought, okay, let me extrapolate and prepare a paper for you. This is one village which is located nearly 40 kilometers from Puri, and there are roughly 120, 125 families, and they live in just one row of houses, and that one row is actually in U-shape. Okay, so you have one row of houses around one central, line of temples, pandals, and there are like couple of raised platforms where they perform, and there is also a temple there, and the whole all the families are into different art forms like Odissi dance, music, the Odissi Gana, and Gotipur dance, which is what boys perform. And actually Odissi evolved from Gotipur, and Pattachitra, which is that famous canvas painting that you get everywhere, and then palm leaf engravings, which are like tiny ones costing 2,000-3,000 at least. Pattachitras, of course, sell for 5,000, 10,000, 1 lakh. Like that's the most prestigious art they produce. Of course, another famous art they produce is performing art, of course, is Odissi. And then they have small crafts that they produce, paper mache and other small objects. And they also have Pala and Daskathia. That's like the narrative tradition. So what happens is the Pala and Daskathia players are trained in some kind of narrative traditions of that culture. They stand and they start the rendition, and they start with one question or problematic, and they rope in many other, and they rhyme that out, and they do that in a musical as well as in a very, very performative style. So if others ask questions, they also take, and when they engage with those narrations, they also quote from classical texts. They provide the supplementary text to their arguments, and so they are both intellectuals and singers, performers, and also because they produce it extempo. So they operate in a very intense interpsychological, intersubjective plane, So, and that's highly a demanding one, and they do brilliantly well. Okay, what is unique about this village is that this village believes that if you want to be an Odissi artist, dancer, or a Gotipur dancer, or you want to be a painter, you have to know several art forms. You should be trained in singing. You should listen to classical and folk narratives. You should develop knowledge in that. And you should also, if you want to be a dancer, then you should also observe how people paint, how people move, how everybody lives life. Like everyday life has to be observed carefully. Similarly, if you are an artist, you also should be a dancer, at least a Gotipur dancer if you are a boy, because initially men are into Pattachitra because that was the most prestigious art form. Women were not into Pattachitra. They were rather preparing palm leaf, engravings they were doing, or paper mache work they were doing. The reason is that because these two art forms were taking less time. So women can do their everyday chores, and whenever they find time, they do these works. But Pattachitra is a huge 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months commitment, and so men were into that profession, and also that was the primary source of their identity as well as income. So men were into those professions. Of course, till 70s. Things changed after 70s. I'll tell you what. But the whole village actually was sort of training its young children into more than 3 to 4 art forms. And many of them were excelling in 2 or 3 art forms. It's not that just one they would excel, And at least one they would be doing very well. Okay. And why I'll just take a visual tour so that you can imagine what you can understand, the village and the context that I'm referring to, and then I'll come to the arguments I'm bringing in my paper. Okay, this I didn't find a good picture. Basically, the houses are like this, and they're in one row. I've taken from outside, so this is not actually a good picture. What I wanted to show is, if you see, they also, almost everybody, including men, they engage in wall painting. And they do wall painting several times a year. So if there is an occasion, they do, and then there's another festival, so they paint it again and create more art forms. So and the forms are very different. The one you see, like this is the wall painting. The rights. Okay, you can look at the wall painting here, and when we started the study, this was an ethnography. Traditionally, the older women were into color making, so they prepare colors, and also sort of supervise training of younger children in painting or in dance. So that picture I didn't get because it's like 8-9 years old. I was not finding the entire archive of mine. So, and you'll see how older women were supervising the works. And also several pictures will show how they always worked in groups, And, like you talk to any one of them, they would be into 3-4 kinds of art forms. And but that's how the village was believing, that if you want to be a good artist, you must understand your body. What posture conveys what emotion or what meanings. And unless you know that, unless you experience it, you cannot produce it. So embodiment is very, very important. So they'll first train you in all this, and then they will train you in potter painting. Similarly, if you are a dancer, and almost all the dancers were good singers, and they were into some even non-performing art forms as well. Okay, there was another very interesting thing, that whichever art you are interested in, except paper mache, but that's also included partly, you have to watch the performances on the pandals that they perform in the evening hours, or if there is a festival, they used to also perform during the daytime. Okay, but in that village, there would be some performances round the year. Like 3, 4, 5 decide to do something, maybe a dance or a drama or pala or daskatya. Daskatya, like you take 2 pieces of two wooden pieces and produce a rhythmic music and use that to create, to sing. You just follow the rhythm of that sound and then sing. And they synchronize these 2 systems, and they extempo produce songs. Not that they learn and sing, they produce. Therefore, they need a regular rhythm in which they will, produce the song, the narrations in singing. Okay, and so that they thought is fundamental to produce any kind of art, performing art or any other non-performing art forms. And that was the intellectual training that every child was getting. This is where there is a gender narrative. I'll be talking more on gender because, earlier men were women were also watching, but women were not encouraged to learn, say, Mahabharata or Ramayana or Jagannath Purana fully. Men could recite, almost every text that they were listening, because they were listening again and again. They were reading themselves. They're singing, many of those texts. And therefore, men were skilled in that. Women were not encouraged. But what happened in the 70s? Odisha announced it to be a heritage village. Of course, Government of India announced it as a heritage village in 2000. And it got a lot of fundings. But in 70s, some of these NGOs and individual philanthropists, they started supporting women artists. And they started providing stipends and scholarships to women artists. So even the senior, very renowned artists who need money, of course, the families, this was their primary source of income. So they needed money. So they trained their daughters in Odissi dance, in patta painting, also and second thing, these funders also arranged performance of these younger artists in different parts of India as well as outside. So suddenly women were entered into this labor force. So earlier the labor was clearly divided in gender line, but then they crossed the boundaries and women were started earning more because most of the international performances, the troops that they came, they preferred women. You know why? That there's also a gender narrative. They're so underpaid. But they, if they get 40,000, they think it's a lot of money because for that village it's a lot of money. But then the person who hires you for 3 months and gives you only 40,000, it's like, no money, So there's also a gender dimension. They're exploited. But the family was still not earning that 40,000. And so they thought, okay, our daughter goes out, sees the world, performs, comes back with 40,000 and a lot of other experiences. So they were happy. But then the whole thing started turning around. Okay, what I wanted to tell on the basis, you can see, look at the posters. This is a painting. And if you look at the Odissi dance, you will see they're very similar, So what they embody, they produce again in another form. And so what I wanted to say here is, and this is something I saw, like when I was talking to heads of the families, most of them could sing really well. Sing, dance, at least one painting they were able to do. And if you sit with them, then you'll hear too many, lot of things. Kelucharan Mahapatra was from that village. It's a very famous village in Odisha. And this is a wall painting. Look at the intricacies, of even a wall painting they produce. Okay. I was a Vygotsky, trained in Marxist psychology and wanted to see how labor is organized in a village because labor is intimately related to one's consciousness. Okay, so everything is linked to that labor. So I started with that question: that who is doing what, why somebody is doing, why boys paint potters and women, and that to older women, not younger one. Younger ones do Odissi dance because they are hired by all these troops. The relatively middle-aged and older women do the palm leaf engraving. Why anybody does who does which work, and how is therefore that person positioned in that society, and then how his own consciousness and well-being is determined. That's where I started, and so I looked at the lived world of the people from a very, very Vygotskian perspective. But then gradually I moved to some psychoanalytic, yes, I'll come to that. And I'm not trained in psychoanalysis. So obviously I was reading and I was taking help of my friends, and I was trying to look at, more intimate side of women's life, and so you will see, I'll not read out most of it because, what I wanted to say here is body is so centrally involved in performance, art. One cannot talk about well-being without looking at what is its relationship with, any other anything else in their life, like the music they produce, the art they produce, or the dance they do, and how and these are the people who perform all the time. They would be standing, you have to go to that village to witness it. They just decide to dance and they will dance there. But the whole village is that, Evening they decide to perform, so they'll say, okay, next Monday we are performing, they'll perform. Or somebody is performing and these younger children are watching. So mind it, they are the performers and there is an audience, and they are in the audience and there is a performer here. And it's all going on all the time. And so the boundary between an artist and the audience was so fluid that they could easily travel between. So when I'm standing here, I carry one kind of ego, one kind of the self, and when I sit there, I carry another kind. So when this position constantly changes, a very different kind of reflexive capability evolves. And also a very different kind of resilience, narrative of resilience evolves. And the cathartic plane also gets constantly restructured, remediated, renegotiated. So why I'm saying that if I'm not able to reflexively engage with some, inner side of me from here, I can do that from there because my ego is not involved. Okay, and this is the beauty of that village. They did not need any therapist, They were providing that therapy to themselves. Their life was itself a source of therapy, And I therefore was curious because I have some work on dementia. And I was doing with Heidelberg University, a major 4-year, actually that was more an exchange program. On aging. So we were interested in the question of dementia, and I thought, okay, here is a society, probably they may not have. I asked, they really didn't have. I said, do you have a dementia patient, in the village? They didn't have, It's not that they'll not have, What I'm saying that that cultural context was taken care of because of its ability to provide a very different kind of collective catharsis to the community. What I was surprised by Savitri, a couple of women artists I interviewed deeply, Savitri said that I didn't have any purpose. And suddenly I realized that I should be a good Odissi dancer. Somewhere this goal came. And then the whole family was helping, the village was helping. He got the scholarship, and she became also a dancer. And she was saying that I went to West Bengal, performed in Purulia district there, and then I went to West Arab country, one or two, Kuwait, and maybe one more country. And then I performed in different rich people's houses and all that, And then, but when she was telling, she said, for me, I said, how do you feel? Do you feel nice? Do you feel better? She said, for me, in Odia, she said, meaning is well-being. I didn't have a goal. It's not goal, actually, meaning is much more than goal. She said, looking for meaning is looking for well-being. It's not about happiness at all. I'm not bothered about happiness. Do you think I'm very happy? I know in several cases I'm unhappy. But fact is that I'm still deciding what to do. I'm still experiencing 20 things. I'm still engaged in some kind of search for meaning. I think I have my well-being. And this is where my my research took a turn, and that's where I actually looked into psychoanalytic narratives, literature. So how to look into meanings. So the two concepts that we constantly came across in various forms were negation and denial. And why we talked about negation and denial? Because I was a bit Freudian there. I thought, okay, let me take the help of Freud and see what kind of, how do we look at the data? How do we look at the lives of people? So what we realized that these women have huge investment in the patriarchy itself. Not the men, the women had bigger investment in the patriarchy. And they were asked to behave in certain ways. They were asked not to behave in certain ways. So there were early repressions which were actually causing this, a huge investment in patriarchy. So art was actually giving a language to some of these repressed contents. And as I'm saying, when they were switching between the positions and they were hearing different kinds of narratives using different kinds of modes of expressions or mediational tools, performance or painting or singing or dancing, all of them are doing 2-3 different kinds of, participating in 2-3 different kinds of art forms, all these together at least were giving some opportunity to each, artist to connect and then look back at his own life through that. So what was happening was that the repressed was getting a language, and the moment the repressed gets a language, it starts appearing in our conscious mind, at least subconscious mind, and most of the cases conscious mind. It takes time. We reflect back, differently, but we start visiting them. We start asking them, and that is healing at one level. But these women said, actually gave me a very different, more powerful, theory, where they basically convinced me that they are enjoying this journey of finding a new meaning in their life. And this journey is way more interesting than any outcomes that I measure in desirable, using desirability factor. That this is a desirable one, or this is a better one, or it'll make me happy. That's what families tell you. Family is all about happiness project, and we know that that's a myth. If I look for a happy person, I'll not find anybody. If I look for a very a meaningful person, somebody who lives and also dares to say that I live, I'll find almost all of you. Okay, this is against standard Freudian stuff, but what I wanted to say, or what is important here, is to understand that the unconscious cannot come out or cannot surface using a logic. You can't give a logic and then you say that, okay, things will pop up. It doesn't work like that. And what Freud and what even Lacan have said, that it's actually the metaphor which can create a kind of connection, or it's like, this one metaphor creates a link with your unconscious, and वो जैसे नीचे से पानी बिल्कुल खींच के आता है, it comes out like that. वो आप प्रोग्राम करके एक systematically धीरे धीरे निकाल नहीं पाओगे. It just bursts out, So you need a medium of metaphor for the repressed content to get a language. I think you were saying that in your talk. Yeah, we are so much together. She'll also be on board. I'm working in your paradigm. And art provides that. And if you identify, if you look for what is that a metaphor which has caused it, you may not get. Metaphors don't work like that. If you see how brains work, I work on mathematics. You will now laugh. That's my primary area of research. And one of the claims we make is that if the brain is not wired for metaphorical thinking, we would not have produced the kind of mathematics we have today, because mathematics is entirely metaphorical. There is no mathematical concept which is real, like physics concepts. It is discursive concepts, and it is entirely metaphorical. Art is metaphorical. I can't sing a song. I don't know what genre it belongs to, but I can still relate to it. It moves me, my body, my mind, my soul, and it takes me to another realm because of my ability to metaphorize. Okay, and that works mysteriously. So, if I'm talking about therapy, if I'm talking about catharsis, I don't have to really look for that a metaphor that's working mysteriously in this. No, because of its, metaphorical space, and also the capacity to operate within a metaphorical realm. It connects to our unconscious and subconscious, and once I start visiting that, my well-being is restored. Well-being can't be restored, both of them will tell you, not in one session or two sessions, or it's not like A and B are the input and C is the output, and every time I do, if I put A and B, C will come. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, and the entire field of metaphor is that. So why art is important, whatever form it is. Performance art has a very different kind of power, because it uses your body way more than other art forms. But why they work as therapeutic texts for you is because of their ability to metaphorize or establish a link in the absence of a sententially driven linguistic structure or system. I think I'll just conclude here. So last sentence that I said, this reappearance of repressed content creates a new search for meaning, and the search for meaning for these women is well-being. But this is what we just concluded with.
Hello, everyone. So I've put up this slide. I don't prefer talking about myself too much, but I've put it up so that you get an information about the individual who's talking is somewhat credible. And I've done a couple of degrees in the subject matter from Delhi as well as from London, but also I have started a few organizations and partnered with government and media agencies, written petitions to create systemic change around mental health work in India. And so that's my associations that you can find over there. Several projects are running under me, which are about trickling that change to various parts of the country. And there is the teaching work that I do, which occurs in 5 cities in the country. And I also take teaching workshops in the UK. And over there, the work that I do is really primarily to equip mental health workers from various fields of life in how to use arts as a healing modality. Yeah. So these are the organizations. You can see them. And if you feel like you want to take pictures of my slide, feel free. You can look them up later. Feel free to connect with me. There are various levels of work. If you're interested in working in how to enhance this work in the country, we can connect on associations. If you want to run a project, we can run projects. If you want to come in as an individual client or group therapies, we offer all kinds of work. But the idea is basically that mental health is a system, and I'm working from within various places in that system to really encourage arts therapy as a very serious field in the country. So when I think of the word therapy, this is sort of the image that comes to mind. This one very distressed individual sitting in a room and a very caring individual responding to them, and that's the dynamic. Or else if you're going to look into group therapies, various individuals looking very serious, sitting and discussing very serious things. Or you might think of psychometric testing, that someone will sit with some notebook and they'll judge me on my behaviors and what I say. And so we have a certain colonized vision of what therapy looks like. It happens in a particular context, in a particular setting. But really, mental health work is of various sorts. There's individual work, group work, workshops. You can access mental health work in telemental health ways. There's psychological first aid for refugee areas and all kinds of areas and prisons. There's psychiatry, there's counseling, there's clinical psychology and psychoanalysis. And it's really like, जैसे आपको आँख में बीमारी होती है तो you go to an ophthalmologist. If you have a bone issue, you'll go to an orthopedician. So similarly, you have to look at what is the mental health condition, what is the context, and then meet it there. Expressive arts therapy or creative arts therapy can work in conjunction with any of these settings. We can be an individual offering, or we can be a multidisciplinary offering in conjunction with any of these settings. So this is usually what our work looks like. These are not client photos. I will not be using client names due to confidentiality. I will not be using any client pictures either. The pictures that I'll be using are set with consent from workshop participants and from people who have been attending my classes and training programs that I conduct in various universities in the country. So you can see on the bottom, for you, this picture here basically. This is Anganwadi workers. I'm doing a health training with them. That's Gandhi Ashram. And then there's various studios, various colleges where we go and conduct workshops to equip mental health workers in how to work with their specific communities. So when you think of therapy, I'm sure you never thought of this image or these kinds of images as therapeutic work. But really, it's a very vast scope that creative arts therapy creates. And no population is untouched by the scope of creative arts therapy. You do not have to be a dancer, actor, musician, anything to come in. In fact, sometimes that's a problem because they have a certain vision of how it should look and a certain technique orientation, which you sometimes have to break down to help them express what is authentically present in their bodies. Yeah. So yeah, this is the way it ends up looking. And sometimes it looks like this. Sometimes it also looks very quiet and we're talking. But I'm just giving you an idea of what can happen. So I want to talk about what is the value of the arts that we're using. So one is the aesthetic value of the arts. This is very clear that we have paintings in our house. We have nice music that we want to listen to. We want to watch good dancing. And we're very concerned about the aesthetic value of it. It should look good. It should be symmetrical, synchronized and all of that. Which is not a problem unless you're looking at emotional expression. Because emotional expression is not always aesthetic, right? Then there's the therapeutic value of the arts. And in general, the arts have therapeutic value. You feel good, but that doesn't mean you're doing therapy. Feeling good and therapy are two very different things. Therapeutic value of the arts meaning because I'm engaging in the arts, not only am I feeling good, but certain things are getting resolved in my body. Certain ways in which I'm engaging with the arts is making me feel I can reflect on difficult emotions. But that's still a therapeutic value. How does it shift into therapy? Is when a professional comes into the picture. Creative arts therapy or expressive arts therapy is when a trained professional designs interventions in order to work with individuals or groups, and it is not focused on feeling good. That's not the point here. It is focused on allowing a language of the arts to express difficult or easy emotions. But you sort of are almost like learning a new language to be able to express things that are not logically or verbally or consciously present to you. So what you're doing is working with the unconscious. I'll talk about that more. And of course, there's the cultural value of the arts, right? And of course, I'm very grateful to be here because I'm talking from this perspective, and Ms. Guha, who's invited all of us here, is really combining that cultural value with the therapeutic value through inviting panelists like us. Because so far, the cultural value has been separately considered from the therapeutic value. And the cultural value has been about expressing various rituals, expressing various ways in which people connect and engage with each other. And those are also therapeutic, but of course they are not therapy, right? So just because a lot of this nomenclature, this is a pet peeve of mine, is that shopping is my therapy, or dancing is my therapy, or so and so is my therapy. And I think there's a problematic understanding of the factors of therapy that are not engaged in. It's quite dangerous to keep saying that. So I would encourage all of us here to change that language into shopping is therapeutic for me. Meditation is therapeutic for me. Therapy is a clinical intervention. It happens in a particular context. So the expressive value of the arts, right? So it helps us express a lot more than verbal language would. Verbal language comes in as a constraint sometimes where you have a logical way in which verbal language works in your brain. In order to translate an experience into verbal language, you undergo a process. That process has to have a certain structure. That structure negates certain information because that structure does not have the access to that communication. So what does arts do? It helps me communicate things outside of that structure. things I cannot put a word to. It gives a language to my unconscious material, things I am also not aware of about that thing. So for example, let me give you an example. So undesirable experiences, right? So I am thinking about, I don't like being angry as a person. I find that myself very shamed by my anger. I don't like containing my anger. But in an art therapy session, I don't have to be angry. This king in my story is angry and beheading people, right? Or this lady by the lake is sitting quiet and expressing my depression. So what am I doing there? I'm separating and kind of making it possible for me to access difficult, undesirable emotions without feeling threatened by them in my body. If sitting alone they come up in my body, I might feel very threatened by them. But when they are expressed in the words, the language of art, they become more accessible to me. Then inexplicable emotions. For example, let me do this exercise with you, right? So if I say the word busy, we say this a lot, na? I'm so busy, मैं बहुत busy, I'm बहुत occupied, बहुत शौक है हमें ये बोलने का. I'm very busy. But when I say the word busy, what is the first image that pops up in your head? Clumsy, too many things are going on. Okay, what else? Studying.
Not managing the day.
Not being able to manage my day. Some boring stuff is happening. Some maths पढ़ा रहे हैं. Being stressed. What is that? Give me an image. If you could give a metaphor to being stressed. Deadlines are coming. Some office work is about to happen, right?
Nothing seems to be going right.
Nothing seems to be going right. No time for self. And the chaos in your mind, right? Hectic. Very hectic, right? Movements become faster, mind becomes hectic, right? And the images that can pop up as metaphors in your mind, it can be various, right? When somebody is saying something and I'm thinking of like a bus station, very busy. Or I'm thinking of like a fish market. Or I'm thinking of like, kuch chhoot raha hai, plane chhoot raha hai. Something like that. The concept of busy and how it translates particularly to you is very different from each other as you're sitting here. Right? Now, if I had just verbally asked you to express yourself, you would have said busy. But immediately as I ask for an image, if I ask for an enactment, if I ask for an embodiment, I get a lot more data. I get a lot more information about how you perceive the world. What are the patterns of thought and feeling and behavior that govern your everyday life? See, so the unconscious information that I can get access to outside of the verbal is not only in the product. It's not in the final image that you give me. It's in the process. So we're very used to art as a product. It should look like this. It should sound like this. It should be nice, etc. But arts therapy concentrates on the process. What choices did you make? Why did you choose this image? Where is it coming from? We become very, very curious about you. Very curious. We're very caring in the way of asking that we're not saying good image, bad image, good acting, bad acting. We're saying, what an interesting way of thinking. Tell me more. Take me through why did you choose this color? Why did you enact it this way? Why did you move this body part? And in that curiosity, what you're helping the client do is reflect on their own process. That has a lot more information than if I just ask you to describe it. And then I go home and you go home and you come back next session and you describe it. Then I go home, you go home, and so on and so forth, right? So it makes emotions very safe and accessible. It gives me a lot of information. It doesn't threaten me. And I can just access very difficult things without feeling like I'm burdened by them. It also invites play, spontaneity, and indirect emotional value. Play is a very good parameter for mental health. Very good parameter. The ability to play is from a mind that is healthy. The ability to imagine, the ability to create, right? The ability to spontaneously come up with something. So when we meet individuals who are distressed or who are caught up in their trauma, that ability is sometimes diminished. So slowly, with more encouraging of creativity and with their bodies coming into play, with music, with art, we help them create an environment where they feel safe enough in their own mind to start imagining and creating play again. I won't go into the Eros Logos, that is very Jungian psychodynamic perspective. If you're interested in more and more of this, I was finding it very hard to reduce everything into 20 minutes. I'm used to giving 8-hour, 9-hour lectures. So yeah, I just gave one for the last 4 days in Pune. But if you're interested, I mean, make sure you connect with me. I'm more than happy to explain these things. So having given all of that background of basics of how art therapy works, we have these various forms of therapy. We have visual art, drama, dance movement, music, narrative, storytelling, and poetry. And all of these are active in different factions of the country right now. And we're trying to create a body that kind of brings everything together. And we're working with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare to look at how to create regulation and legislation in these factions so that you get standardized best practices work. And in these ways, it kind of helps you take care of the end client who is very vulnerable, right? People don't come to therapy because they're happy. They're coming there because they're feeling vulnerable and their support systems have let them down. So we don't want them meeting another person who's having very good intentions. I want to be a therapist. That's a great way to start. But that's a starting point. You have to equip yourself after that. Yeah, because you're working with someone else's life. That's not something we should take lightly. So creative arts therapies uses active engagement in the arts to address mental, emotional, developmental, and behavioral issues. Yeah, and I've taken the particular definition of dance movement therapy, which is I've co-founded this organization, the association, and I'm on the board of directors, soon to retire as the vice president. They define DMT as a psychotherapeutic method that uses movement and creative expression to further socio-emotional, cognitive, and somatic integration. Ignore all these words if they don't have any meaning to you. Basically, it's about well-being, connecting the mind and body, and how you manifest that in the real world. Yeah. This approach helps in self-expression to bring about a change in the total functioning of an individual. This doesn't mean I'm looking to change your behavior into a positive behavior or a negative behavior. We don't operate on those binaries. Emotions are not good emotions and bad emotions. Emotions are just biochemical reactions in your body. And all emotions, if you give them a safe enough space, will go from distress to feeling expressed, and eventually relief will occur. So if you start dividing this binary, that it should be why are you feeling like this, why are you thinking like this, try to feel good. It doesn't work like that. These are chemicals. Chemical reactions don't switch off and switch on. They have to feel safe in the body in order to transform. Yeah. So DMT is for individuals of all ages, gender, races, ethnic backgrounds, individual work, couple work, family work, group therapy formats. We do everything. I particularly specialize in violence-related work and mythology work. So women with domestic violence issues are my primary area of concern, but I also work with perpetrators of domestic violence in prison settings, and I work with couples and families, and I also do trauma-informed work with them using mythology. Sometimes Indian mythology, but also mythology from across the world. There's a very rich archetypal imagery and dramatization possibility when you're working with things from another culture. Because when it's too close to your culture, then you have very less space for projection on that material. But when you have no information, no familiarity with it, you can project whatever you want, right? So the core principles behind such work. First of all, the mind and body connection. I think ma'am spoke enough about that, so I'm not going to elaborate on that. But the idea is not that there's mind and body connection. The word itself is wrong. The mind is the body is the mind. We're one cohesive unit that not only has impact on each other from a cause and effect point of view, but it informs each other's processes. the psychosomatic expression of trauma. Once again, ignore the terms if they're not for you. But the idea is that trauma is a bodily reaction experience as well. Even if it's not physical trauma, my breath, my heartbeat, my sweat glands, I respond, right? So when we are processing it, why are we only talking about it? We need to process it from a body's perspective. The body holds memory. And that's how we learn. How do I know how to pick up a bottle? Procedural memory. Right? How do I know? I don't think about it every time. Right? How do I know how to blink? How do I know how to bend my knees? How do I know any of this? So body is constantly from a sensorium perspective picking up on information and acting on it. But when we are somehow in our minds, when we started to work through trauma, we said, let's sit down and let's talk about it. What a silly thing to do. What happened to the rest of me? How can you just let that be? So what happens here is an amalgamation of our conscious thoughts in our unconscious mind. We bring more and more information from the unconscious realm into the consciousness, and that awareness helps us make better decisions and helps us better our life. I do not tell my clients, this will better your life. They collaboratively with me work towards betterment and well-being. They create practices which make sense for them. I do not claim to be an expert on their life. I claim to be an expert on my subject matter. Thank you. This is especially productive when we create some distance between us and our emotions. And the arts are very, very helpful in that. I am very able to aesthetically say, like I just said, that king is beheading. I'm not beheading. I'm not the bad child who is shamed for her anger. That one is. So when I don't have to own my emotions, I can work with them. They become very accessible to me. So we work a lot with aesthetic distance and projective techniques. And like I said, I won't go into the psychoanalytical techniques and metaphors. I've created this presentation specifically for this population. But if you're interested, we have a lot of depth through which we actually function. You can go from corporate workshops to working with clinical populations of a severe nature using this kind of work. So depending on where you want to work, you need adequate training. And of course, we work with role theory. Now, role of a creative arts therapist. Okay, I'm going to wrap up quickly. So, first of all, as a creative arts therapist, you develop a safe and trusting rapport and relationship. You have to be reflexive and aware of your own needs. Otherwise, you're going to go into that room and say, you know what, I think this is the best path for you. But really, you're talking about yourself and a path you couldn't take. So you decided to tell it to someone else. You have to be aware that my needs are separate from my client's needs. You have to support and encourage a client's art exploration by using kinesthetic empathy that you feel in the body, and developing a therapeutic presence. Enable agency. You're working with people. You're not governing their lives. You're working with them, not on them. That's a very important distinction to make. And unless you enable agency, you're creating dependency. Anytime there's a problem, they'll rush back to you. Enabling agency means you're equipping the ego state of the individual to work on themselves consistently for a long term. You allow and encourage various emotions, like I said, no positive and negative emotions, but any emotions, to use the psychological and psychotherapeutic framework in conjunction with very objective art analysis and observation tools that we are trained in, not to interpret art. We don't interpret. We don't say, this looks like a bird, you must be happy. For them, birds might mean cages. So we don't interpret. We just provide a safe enough space where they collaborate and make meaning themselves. Design and implement inclusive programs for diverse client groups so that you're not looking into oh, but sorry, you can't work with art therapy. We don't do that. Anybody and everybody can access it. And to follow ethical principles pertaining to boundaries, confidentiality, and undergoing sufficient clinical supervision. Here are some barriers to ethical practice. Right now, there's a lot of misrepresentation of this field. And lots of people are misrepresenting themselves as well. Basically, they don't want to. There's just a lack of understanding of how to go about adequate training. Since there's a lack of regulation, and anybody and everybody can actually make use of that. So I don't think it's coming out of a maleficence. It's just coming because there isn't a direction yet that we've taken as a country. And I'm not talking about adapting other people's ethics. We have to create our own. Paucity of quality education and rigor in the field is definitely being felt. Less and less people have developed empirical research over here, and there are very few funding opportunities. So I see such great people who come into my courses, fantastic, brilliant students, and they leave because they know that there's no future in the realm of funding. So we need to create funding opportunities. We need the meritorious students to choose these programs, right? And of course, access issues. We are speaking in a particular language over here. We are from a particular socioeconomic strata over here. Access issues exist in mental health across and physical health across the country, of course. This is my field of study. I just want to end with this. Drama and movement therapy, like I said, mythology, women, this, that's my nexus. But Sesame approach, the approach I trained in when I was in London, is the use of drama and movement. And the story from Alibaba, they've taken the word sesame. Basically means that there are treasures to be unlocked within each of us if we use the right tools. And no, like what ma'am was saying earlier, that no two people will respond the same, right? So everybody's password is different. So that's what we're working on, finding people's passwords. So therapy sessions will be different according to the needs of those taking part. These are some of the terms you might hear when you're hearing about drama and movement therapy. But really, when we are in the client space with the patient, I don't think of terms. I don't think of theories. I'm relating to them as a fellow human being who I trust and has capacity. I don't think of them as patients who are incapacitated, but people who, for that period of their life, are finding it distressing and difficult and providing support to them using the arts. And it's beautiful, no, to make a story with them and create play with them and just connect as people. You remove all that mask of expert and patient and you just connect as human beings. So this is how a typical session would look like. You'd check in, how you're feeling, you'd warm up. This could be an emotional warm-up, it could be a physical warm-up. You bridge into a theme that you're planning to explore, you design a main activity, you bridge out of it. And here, when you're bridging out, it's just providing space to reflect on their experience, not interpret their experience. That's a very important distinction I'd like to highlight again. And finally, you do something which is grounding. All right, so with all of that, I will ground my presentation right over here. Thank you very much.
I would request participants, if you have any questions, to ask Anshuma and Madam Ruma. You can ask the questions to them. We'll wind up in 15 minutes.
I want to show you 5-minute performance. How I was, my name is R.K. Gulati, 70 years. Why the people call me as a Dr. Happiness Gulati.
We'll see that, sir, but first we'll take up the questions. Okay? Yeah. Any questions? We have students from Delhi World Public School, Greater Noida. Any questions? Students?
To Ms. Roma Chakravarti.
Yes.
Personally, how has music therapy helped you?
When I was young, I started my musical journey when I was 4 years old. I started learning. Actually, my mom would take me to the teacher and I would not like, but eventually it became a habit. Then I also was very inclined to volleyball playing, all right, games. I did not know a word about what is music therapy until 2006, all right. Never knew what it was. So, in volleyball, when I would play, I had zero inhibition ever, all right? I was never anxious. So I didn't know why this happened. People used to say, maybe it's your attitude problem. I said, maybe that's an attitude problem, whatsoever it is. Now, in 2018 or 19, a sports coach came to me and asked that he wants his players to be, given some kind of psychological balance for their, enhancement of games. I said I can do only anything through music. I do not know about games that you're playing or that, because I have left my volleyball game long back, so I never thought about it. Then I started working on this, because you have to do a preparation before you go to a session. So I started working on it, and I developed only 2 interventions for them. Standing on a single swara and doing physical exercise with Shiv Tandav. These were the just 2 interventions. And I gave them, and they were extremely happy. Over a period of 2 months, they were very, very happy about. So I'll just cut it short. Then I understood why, because I practiced this too also along with them, because I did not know how it would work on them. I started practicing. Then I got my answers on why in case of volleyball playing I was never anxious. All right, so music helps you first. Whether you know it or you do not know it, it actually grounds you. Actually grounds you, gives you that kind of resilience, because it is very scientific. Why sa starts from your navel position. Your root chakra works out there. It makes you grounded there. So I won't go to scientific discussion. It will be too big now, too lengthy. But actually, yes, it did help me, because later on I understood the science behind it. Earlier I did not know. When I started working and when I started experiencing doing things in workshops with teams, then I understood, yes, it works, and why it worked, I got the answer later.
Well, music indeed helps me to feel myself too. There are many mental problems with each one of us, and yeah, there is something in music. It makes me feel safe. I didn't know about this music therapy until I heard you about it. But yeah, I am going to research about it.
Please do.
It is really fascinating. Thank you.
Rumati, I have one question for you. Like you say that Indian music therapy is not that much known in the universities now. You want to take up the
Yes.
therapy to the universities. There is one university in Delhi, Department of Fine Art and Music, I think, Music and Fine Art in Delhi University. Are they doing some kind of, workshops, or are you doing any workshops with them?
I have not. I had contacted Delhi University through the chairman of IGNCA, but I did not get any response.
Nobody gets a response from them.
Yeah, I started, I followed up a lot of time, but I did not get a response. I'm so sorry to say that.
Yeah, we should take up this kind of initiatives,
Yes.
doing the workshops, especially among the, in the universities. schools and
Absolutely, we
colleges
really
around
want to do
young,
that.
youngsters,
Yeah.
students.
I have been doing in Chandigarh because I'm doing my PhD right now. I've done my master's long ago. I don't remember also. So now I'm doing my PhD because, the reason was without that degree, you do not get access. That criteria, the DR, becomes a criteria for your access. Whether you have knowledge, you do not have knowledge. This is very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. All right. So that's the reason why I'm doing it, but I'm enjoying it. Thankfully, I'm enjoying because I'm in the line. I've done my master's in biophysics, but I'm into multidisciplinary work now in music therapy, because I started my music therapy long ago in 2005 with my mother-in-law. So, but I'm enjoying it thoroughly now, and we
What is
really
your
want to do
experience
this.
with the older people you are working with, like the senior citizen homes, you say?
Extremely good. Like I had been a regular with of senior citizen home in Faridabad. That's Golden Estate, and I have individual as well as group clients. Okay, so I'm a regular with them. Then I'm working with Pondicherry Serene Pelican Homes. Extremely happy with them, and I'm evolving with them. How much they are evolving. Aurobindo Ashram I'm working with, and then Uttarakhand, and that is in 2 aspects, in community development as well as in therapeutic space. So as she has just told, a very important point that we have to understand their requirement. When we are going to a village, we cannot implement our knowledge to them. We have to learn from them to evolve them to where they really want to. This is so much important. So more than them, we are learning to implement it. Since we know the techniques, we can pick it up and implement it. That is what we need to do. So there are a lot of spaces where we are working in this space. We are learning and doing. It is a trial and error work that's being done throughout.
You can
approach the UGC chairman because he is encouraging people having experience in certain fields but not having degree.
Okay.
So now it's open to you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
UGC chairman.
So
UGC.
is it just like practice professors thing that they have encouraged right now?
Yes.
Professors of practice.
People from
Yeah.
industries also.
Yes, right now they are encouraging. It's just
Encouraging
have
people
come
for
out.
teaching.
Mm.
So you can.
मैडम आपके लिए अगर सेंटर ऑफ कल्चरल स्टडी से मिलना हो तो क्या प्रोसीजर है?
You can contact me directly, and you can log into our website. We have a website mentioned in the brochure, so you can get all the event updates on that website.
Contact numbers are there.
Yeah, it is mentioned over there.
And ma'am, I'll just request you if you have some contacts with universities and all, and if you can,
Definitely
give
we'll
way
pass
to
on
this,
the
pass
word.
it on the
Yeah,
word.
definitely.
That
This
would be
is
really
why we
helpful for
always
us.
CCSD chairperson you need because adolescents need it more.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely
Any more
right.
questions?
That there's a question related to that. So I would like to ask you both about the modern music that youngsters are listening to. So how do you find it different from the Indian tradition, that Indian music, and do you find it relevant in you think it has this whole kind of thing with youngsters?
It's asking about the music.
Modern music, like
Modern
today's
music.
music.
So
Modern,
Youngsters are
which music? Indian
electronic
music or electronic
especially
music?
electronic.
There are different ways to go about it. When I start with Vande Mataram with them, because you cannot start with a rag or something like that. So which rag it is based on? It's based on Rag Desh, right? Then you start involve them in finding out which song, like song from Rajniti. It's based on, I think, Pimpalashi. Okay, so that way we take a different route when we start with them. All right, and then we involve them in music making. Then I start with a story. Like there is a Pundela story you might have heard about. It's a Rajasthan-based story, right? And the song, it's a gypsy song, okay, Rajasthan folk song, and it is known around the world. All right, so it's known as Pundela song. You'll find it on YouTube. It's based on Rag Bhopali. Start with that. Tell them the story. Give them the structure of Bhopali. It's so simple. 5 notes. 5-note rag. All right.
How do youngsters connect to that? Because
I'll tell you, because the story, because folk is very in thing, and then when you give them the story, and then they understand the basis of it, and then you start engaging, then you ask them how you relate with it, how you relate with Vande Mataram. What is your thought about it when the song comes in? What about the anthem? That why do you go to an auditorium full of people and the song, the anthem starts, sports anthem starts, and everybody starts singing? Why it is so? So you have to bring them on those lines, and then start what is their purpose. Start with the purpose. Bring them on those, and then give the music therapy. It's a long process. I'm just giving you bits and pieces things. Okay, it's a long process. All right. Then another thing is, it's very important that if I'm a staunch Indian music therapist, okay, I believe only on Indian music therapy right now, because I do not know anything about Western music therapy. If you ask me, I can't answer a single question. Okay, I don't know anybody in that. So I in that process, I can tell what is the benefits of it. So if you want your children to listen to Indian music, start right from when you are pregnant. Right from when you are pregnant, and then make it a practice to play this music at home, whether the child is listening or not. Don't bother about it. Just don't bother. Create a culture of Indian music. See the difference. But people do not have time nowadays. They don't do it. All right, so this is how it should happen. It should start from the beginning. It doesn't happen like this. You have to develop a culture throughout. If there is no culture, people who are in the slums, they don't have a culture. So I have worked with Srijan Foundation School of Happiness. When I told them, okay, सरगम होगा, उसके बाद ये होगा, उसके बाद हम रागा में जाएंगे. One boy asked me, मैम रागा में कैसे जाएंगे? गाड़ी करके जाएंगे हम लोग. So this is what the
concept. They don't know what the raga
yes.
is.
तो ऐसे ही है, मतलब कल्चर क्रिएट करना पड़ता है.
मैं सजेस्ट करता हूँ मैडम ग्रुप फोटो है
जी कुछ क्वेश्चंस और है तो आप go ahead and ask. questions? I have one question for Anshuma.
भाई टाइम है तो मेरे को 5 मिनट दे दो मैं हैप्पीनेस करके दिखाता हूँ म्यूजिक डांस एंड हैप्पीनेस हाउ इट ओपन माइंड एंड गो टू द पैर में कैसे जाए
Anshuma, I would like to know that how you use drama in your therapy.
So it depends on what you mean by drama. If you're thinking about the disparity, there'll be a stage, there'll be an audience, so on and so forth, and that's a very different way of looking at drama. But everything is performance. Right now I'm in a performance, you're in a performance. So when you look at drama therapy techniques, you look at just unpacking every day, how do you relate to other human beings? What is the role you take up when you're with your parents? What is the role you take up when you're in different phases of life? How do you wish your life looked like? And instead of going into only trauma, we also do a wishful sort of drama therapeutic intervention where we're saying, okay, so what happened that you couldn't get there, and what could be potentially different in your life from here on out to create a wishful scenario. So it's different ways of accessing either the past or the future. Drama is just a modality to be able to access those different roles and different ways of thinking that you have developed over time. See, all our behavior is developed as a response, right? We are in a particular set of circumstances and we choose a certain behavior in that circumstance. In that circumstance, that choice makes a lot of sense. Oftentimes, the problem is when we are outside of the circumstance, but we still start behaving the same only. So that we call a maladaptation. It's called maladaptive behavior, right? So when you start to unravel the basics and say, where did this behavior come from? Why did it make sense to you then? Without shaming them, but coming into why did it make sense then? What is happening right now that it's not making sense right now? So drama techniques like we use, there are techniques, you use masks, you use clay to make projects, you have an empty chair that you project a conversation that you could never have because the person's died or because they are too difficult to access for you or they're an authority figure. There's a lot of practice that the behavior can also bring in. There are techniques like that, but mainly we are looking at everyday life performances. Not performance which is outside of our life, but in everyday, how do you sit, stand, talk, where, when, how do you appear, what do you wear? All these choices we end up unpacking.
So that means you put it in a way like the day-to-day activities, what the patient...
That also, yeah.
Put it into a drama form.
Yeah, but also like if you feel like a mythological reference, right? Like sometimes the women who'd come to me were working with domestic violence, they would say, naak kat gayi. What does that mean? It's coming from a certain story that has a certain paradigm. So let's unpack that story. When I say ki I feel shattered, I'm almost saying like I'm made of glass, right? I'm fragile and then I'm shattered. So we enact that. We let your body experience that and say, okay, what is the metaphor really bringing alive which words cannot?
Metaphor is so important, even in music.
Even ma'am also mentioned.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
metaphor is key.
Key, actually key. People who come like with a couple disputes and all, and they will say that the one doesn't talk to the other properly. They will have to probe and see what is the root cause, and then even I use Kabir's dohas there.
That is soothing also.
धीरे धीरे रेमना धीरे सब कुछ होए. Or you will talk badly to the other person. You cannot expect a good fruit to come out of it, right? So these sort of dohas are so important. रो पे पेड़ बबूल के आम कहाँ से आए? आम कहाँ से हुए? Right? So these sort of metaphors, like instantly, takes you from one pattern to the other. It changes the pattern.
And it's so much richer than saying it.
Yes.
You should change yourself. That doesn't really cut it. It's richer to bring it into a metaphor.
Absolutely true.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming here, and really the discussion was very enlightening, very informative, and we know that performing art, to understand, for a healthy body and a healthy mind, it's very important to understand oneself. And art is a very good medium. Performing art is a very good medium to understand yourself. So, thank you so much, Anshuma, thank you, Umaji and Manji ma'am. for giving your time and accepting my invitation. And also thank you, audience, for coming over here. Thank you so much, and thanks to the Ministry of Culture for supporting this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.